Welcome back for another episode of the Voice of Generation Climate, TVOGC. Today we have with us one of our lovely customers, Varuna Logistics, and representing Varuna Logistics is Neha Oberoi, the head of marketing and communications at Varuna Group. Varuna Logistics is one arm of Varuna Group. Neha, what a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So Neha, I'd love to start right at the beginning. What's your story with Varuna? And can you actually, in that story, also tell us about how Varuna's sustainability journey has evolved?
Sure. So I've been with Varuna Group now a little over 3 years, and I stepped in to look after their marketing arm. And while we started that journey, we have also added communications part of it, and a small segment of what I look into is also CSR. So when you club it all under one umbrella, these different initiatives started forming the crux of what we do, and I'm very passionate about our environmental impact, something that really intrigues me and concerns me. So we had actually, when we joined, we of course were very, very aware about the fact that transport is the most polluting sector in logistics operations, and then our director of business operations attended a business event by one of our customers, and I think there the event was being run as part of one of the products that you guys offer, running neutral carbon emissions.
Carbon neutral events.
Yes, carbon neutral events. So, which is where he sort of was introduced to the concept of Climes and what is being done by you guys. And he came back and he just threw this curveball at me. He said, "So look into this." And that's where the groundwork started happening, and we reached out to you.
That's really, really cool. And yeah, we are helping in a very small way, but I know you do so much more than that. And you actually identified a really interesting thing, which is if you look at net carbon emissions for the country, like 10 to 15% come from the entire logistics industry of all carbon emissions for the country.
Wow.
And that actually, that's a lot. That's more than steel and aluminum and very heavy industry carbon contributions as well, which really shows that the opportunity to help the country decarbonize is also on the logistics industry.
Oh, yes.
Right? And companies that within the logistics sector step up to be the champions for climate, really that's going to create a big domino effect, right? So Varuna, I think in my opinion, is one of the first to really step up and take the challenge of sustainability very, very seriously. And I think the model you've set will inspire a lot more companies in the sector to do better as well.
Well, thank you. Well, sustainability is, everybody knows that it's not just being a branded term now. We just don't want to brand ourselves as socially conscious or green, and it's more mainstream now, and it's our duty and responsibility now to champion this, and it's a small beginning, but we're definitely, I think, one of the first to start an active process for people to understand their carbon emissions.
Absolutely.
With the tool that you guys have built for us.
And that is the first step, right? Like while you're running your operations, at least being able to see your emissions is the first step. Unless you know what your emissions are, you don't know where you can cut those emissions. And then you don't know what you can do about the rest, right?
Yeah.
So in that journey of just this one example of showing your emissions to your B2B customers, tell us, describe that journey. What happened? From the time that it started, because I think it was about 18 months ago or so.
Yeah.
When you first piloted this, displaying carbon emissions for your enterprise customers.
Mm-hmm.
How did that play out and how did it evolve to where it is now?
Okay, so the recognition that we needed to come across and address environmental priorities, the fact that there is a move in customer preferences towards acting on more embedded environmental inefficiencies. So that made us sort of look deeper, and we realized that our challenge is basically reporting real-time data Um, Transport, like I mentioned earlier, is a major polluting sector in the in logistics operations. So that was a first move. We also take care of warehousing, that's under our umbrella brand, and but the first move was obviously transport. And I read somewhere that I think 22% of heavy freight movement is something which is uh, alludes to car- carbon emissions. So we lacked the tool. We couldn't report the carbon emissions, and there was also a lack of transparency because we have a diverse fleet. We not only delve in multi-axle vehicles, which is large, heavy freight movement, but we also use market vehicles as well, which are smaller. So I think when we approached you guys, the idea was to create a tool which could calculate the carbon emissions from point A to point B. And it's
Yeah.
not that simple, right? It's complex. You need to introduce factors such as laden and unladen weight and
Yes.
load capacity. So, and also the type of vehicle which is being used. So we started out with you, which is using our own fleet vehicles, which is the 32 feet, and then post that we once we had it set up, it was integrated. We launched this project which we termed as the Go Green dashboard, and we introduced all our customers. It was very seamlessly integrated by your team into our ERP, and the home screen sort of champions the fact that you can figure out your carbon emissions. The next step of the journey was to amp up that project, and we introduced market vehicles also. So it's a more seamless operation and taking care of every vehicle type which is used. So you calculate the emissions from point A to point B. You have an exact figure. And let's see, I mean, we have plans for the future also, what else we can do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So at Climes, we have this line, it's small enough to do, big enough to matter. That climate action and sustainability don't need to be this big, intimidating project
Yeah.
that you someday get around to, and it doesn't need to be very expensive. It can be really affordable, it can be easy to get started, it can just be bite sized. Like over here, for example, just showing information, showing the true environmental cost is really empowering in a lot of ways for so many more enterprises, your customers.
Yeah.
And actually, the ripple effect of that and the decisions they make based off of that is the real climate impact, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I find that so powerful that just knowledge can influence so much more climate action. And whoever enables that knowledge really is like championing in a lot of ways real climate action, right?
Yes.
It sounds very simple, but it starts with that one root, with some generation climate, a Gen Z person in an institution adopting a solution like this and then
Yeah,
empowering
it's
their
do
customers
more
to.
with less. I mean, the idea was that we set this up and our customers will learn
Yeah,
and understand, and it's sensitizing them about the carbon footprint that they are creating.
yes.
And because of that knowledge, then they can react and respond, and that's where they reach out to you guys for climbs and reduce the environmental impact.
Yeah, exactly. So we found that really, really powerful where someone adopts this and enables this for hundreds more people,
Yes.
and that has really led to like this big movement of like genuine climate action within very many more enterprises. So
Yeah, I
that's
hope
what
it
I just
has a
feel like
domino
Varuna is
effect.
really, really a very cool example in the logistics category at least, and hopefully in the warehousing one, logistics, which includes
Yes.
transportation plus warehousing.
I mean, we've already started the process,
Yeah,
so yes, I'm
absolutely.
very hopeful that that too is going to be launched. And
Yeah. So as a country that's growing pretty fast, logistics is only going to get more important. Uh, Outside of just showing carbon emissions, what kind of other initiatives in the sustainability domain uh, has Varuna adopted within
um,
your operations?
this is early days for us to
Hmm.
actually step up on the different initiatives that are being taken by well larger players in the market. Ours has is a more traditional. Well, the logistics market in general, is a more traditional cost center, and now there has been a move. There has been a shift towards a strategic enabler of business growth. That's how we're looking at it, right? Which is why we started focusing more on creating a green path. Bigger multinational players, they are focusing on moving to EVs, and that is going to be a very gradual process for us to move down that line. And something like being more aware of what packaging materials you use. This is something for warehousing, of course, is something that we look into. Or the energy consumption also in the warehouse by using solar energy, and we have different materials which are used for cooling, and there's different initiatives. But for transport itself, I think the primary thing is that we optimize route planning. So which is, you're more aware of where you're going to go, you reduce on empty miles, and therefore serve on how the vehicle runs. You're looking after the maintenance of the vehicle in a particular way. There's more, so it's all sort of related to creating a better environmental impact.
Yeah.
So, and very hopeful.
By empty miles, you mean keeping the truck in motion, utilized very much more than it normally would, right?
Yes. So there's a driver program where they are made to realize how you cut on fuel consumption, and a better fuel consumption, of course, will reduce your carbon emissions. So,
Absolutely.
and there's different ways in which they are taught, like reducing the idle time. There's a certain tire pressure you should be maintaining. There's, of course, route optimization. You plan your entire route. You're using the GPS, which is system integrated into the ERP. So they're more aware of which is the route to be avoided, congestion, planning in advance, stops, everything. So it's like an integrated
Wow, this is really cool.
setup.
This is all climate action.
Yes,
This is all,
it all is.
right? It doesn't need to be called it just is embedded climate action in the decisions we make,
Yes.
right? And that's really, really powerful. I didn't know you were doing that, like tire pressure optimal and driving speed optimal, but
Yes.
it really adds up, right? Across so
Yes.
many so many trucks and so many shipments in a year, it leads to a lot of cost saving and carbon saving.
Yeah,
Right.
and there's this load mass distribution, which how the cargo is sort of loaded in the container, which is also something which impacts, right? Because if it's well distributed and all, then the weight of the truck is ideal, which is the laden and unladen weight, which we've used in the calculator, right? That also sort of adds to a better, creating better impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So you wear a double hat. Actually, your main role is marketing and communications, and then you happen to also now do sustainability and CSR, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it another hat. It's something that I've started looking into now, but
Yes. So you're involved in that aspect,
yes,
and
yes.
I think that's really cool because you're also, while you're leading these programs, you are also communicating them effectively to your customers and to the overall market, right?
Yes.
So how do you communicate very effectively the impact created? Because that's always it's jargonized. It gets very like complex for lots of people, and simplifying the impact of any climate action, sustainability decision, is really important. So what is your playbook for that?
So, like the jargon that you mentioned, green marketing is now something which is very popular. And
Yeah.
so a part of that is we want to have a competitive advantage with our customers by, making them understand that we are integrating a green value system. And that becomes part of our marketing mix. So, which means that we've used public relations, we've used social media, we've created content for a case study, one of which was with you. So, a lot of the communications come from that aspect, and internally also we have created awareness with our employees to understand more about our impact. because this is what we do, right? We are dependent on fossil fuels for running our fleet, and that isn't going to be changing anytime soon. So, yes, for the awareness of the drivers and the employees of what they do, the impact they have, communicating that, the training. So, it's all part of the cycle that we use in terms of communication. Yeah. And also for our customers, we've got a couple of newsletters out which we share quarterly, and that information is also shared with our customers repeatedly.
Yeah, that's really good because it's a misconception. I mean, not some misconception. It's just communicated wrongly very often. Climate impact, climate action choices, sustainability choices, and I think like if you're taking that responsibility to actually embed it into your own value chain, communicating it in a very simple way, right? Like almost like it's to a 5-year-old is part of our job now too.
Yes.
And simplifying it so that people really understand that this is not more expensive. This is actually life cycle wise cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's just a better thing to do for the planet,
Yes.
right? And when that message is communicated effectively, it's actually very inspiring. Once someone gets it, it's inspiring, and you've then enabled someone to go and make a similar decision in their own company or value chain or even household,
Yes.
right? So
And I
have
think
you?
the simplifying part that you guys did for us, it's for our customers to understand that it is very, very easy to understand the carbon emissions, and to also
Yeah.
create a platform via you for them to respond and react to that, and the projects that you have displayed for them to participate in to do that by purchasing
Yeah.
Climes. It's a lot of people are very skeptical of what they're doing, if it's actually going to the right project. So that kind of
Yes.
awareness which comes from you guys, it's soothing.
Absolutely. And transparency, right?
And
Like
transparent. Yes.
close the entire loop. If you're saying you're doing X, show me the impact created and close the entire loop.
Yeah.
And then I think people by and large mean good. People mean
Yeah.
to do good, and people actually want to play their part as long as that entire loop is closed till the impact. Transparency is there for did this really happen or not?
Yeah.
Was this an evolution for you as a marketing and communications professional? Did you have to really go through your own journey of learning how to communicate climate impact, or did it just intuitively happen?
It happened all of a sudden. So, but once we started championing the cause, I did learn along the way. A lot of that learning came because of you guys, for us to understand that we were in a position to create a tool which could look into the complexities of a supply chain. And it was a gradual learning process. I did a fair amount of reading, and it's a process which I intend to continue, because
Yeah.
it doesn't start, or it doesn't get restricted to just doing this, right? Which is why we want to add on more facets to what we do, for people to understand the emissions that we create, and that's where the warehousing carbon footprint comes. So, which is going to be our next step.
Yeah. What is your hope for others in the space? You're a leader in the logistics industry. Obviously, Varuna does more than just logistics. It's Varuna Group, but particularly for the logistics sector, what is your hope from other players?
I
Um,
hope for everybody to become more aware and understand what their footprint is like. They already know that they create the maximum pollution out there on the road. I mean, road freight accounts for nearly 60 to 65% of the total logistics movement in the industry.
yeah.
And because it's an industry which has so many fragmented players, um, everybody needs to understand and take up the cause. And it's as simple as integrating it into an ERP. Everybody uses the software. I
Yeah.
mean, us as Varuna Group, we have a more robust digital mindset, but everybody's climbing the bandwagon now. There's technological advancements with everybody, otherwise you will not survive. And
Yeah, you
everybody
can't
will use
compete.
an ERP. Exactly. So it just integrate the tool. Step number
Yeah.
one, and step two is to understand and react to that knowledge. So I mean,
Yeah,
one
because
of the things that we started doing earlier, once we started realizing the carbon footprint being created, we started conducting regular tree plantation exercises as something. Again, it's a small step, but something which we are
Oh
now doing
wow, I
regularly
did
every
not know
quarter.
about this.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were doing this.
Yeah, we do
When did
tree
that start?
plantation drives. I think right after we did,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So we
And
do.
where, like, what prompted that decision, and how has it played out till now?
Well, because we created the knowledge, and we it made us also aware that okay, this is a number that we are also part of, and what are we doing actively to address that? So because these are environmental inefficiencies, and
Yeah.
we have to do something. So the simplest, I think, the step number one for us was to conduct a tree plantation drive, and then once that went off well, we thought that okay, this is something which we can do regularly. So now we're doing it every quarter, and the more seamless it becomes, then you can increase the number of times also you're doing it. So we look forward to increasing it from a quarter to more as well.
That's
And
really, really
it
cool.
brings together the employees also, so it's engagement exercise as well.
That's really cool. And now, would you say that, internally within your company, there is a culture of climate awareness and climate
Yes,
action?
yes.
Because I know you mentioned, your chief business officer
Mm-hmm.
is someone who got curious and then found one solution and pulled it into the company. You're already doing other stuff, but like it took that one person to really bring
Mm-hmm.
awareness to a solution and then diffuse it across the organization,
Yes.
right? Yeah, would you say there's a culture of climate awareness and climate action across the company now? Because there's two ways of looking at this. Like typically, movements or this culture shift happens bottom up, right? Lots of people want it, and then the leadership has to say, okay, like we have to do this.
I
Or
think
sometimes it's very leadership driven. One leader really cares, and then they say, guys, we just have to become a purpose driven company, planet first, etc. And then it kind of becomes a part of the entire organization.
um, the realization that the need is there, that there was a requirement to shift, was there was a general awareness with everybody. But I would say that with us, it was a top-down approach with our director business operations stepping in and wanting to for there to be a flow
Yeah.
with the bottom layer as well.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's how we went about it.
That's very, very cool. I think, stuff will need to keep moving. It's not like we can stop consuming and stop moving things.
No.
So that always needs to be there, right? Logistics will be an integral part of our lives. It's just a question of how do we do it more responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever we can actually measure our impact and then cut, wastage. I think that those are the two best choices we can make.
Yeah.
And I really respect how you've approached it so far, and you're sending out a really cool message to the rest of your industry. And if enough more players follow suit, it's not like you're competing against them. You're actually inspiring them to do better for the planet, right?
I
Like
would like
that's
to look at
our
it
hope.
like that.
Yes, that is our hope too.
Yeah.
Neha, it's been such a pleasure to have you with us today on this episode of TVOGC and get your perspective on a sector that normally doesn't talk too much about sustainability. And yeah, it's been quite enlightening.
Likewise, thank you so much. You guys have been instrumental in creating the right tool for us to reach out to our customers, and we really appreciate that. And it was great talking to you too.
Great, great. Thank you, Neha.